Hello, beautiful people. I am King Nikki, and this is a night of horror where I talk horror movies and sometimes other genres and TV shows. Today, we are talking a documentary, but also horror, the real life horror of why some people might say the police. I won't say it, but I wanted to say it. The police. Okay, this documentary, and I have covered quite a few documentaries on this channel. Tinder Swindler, the one where the guy was like calling fast food places to say strip people and all kind of stuff. These documentaries, they elicit certain emotions, but not one documentary has elicited such just visceral anger, frustration. This is literally the most infuriating and frustrating documentary I'm gonna have ever seen in my entire life. And I don't want to be dramatic, but yeah, it goes there. Y'all already know the deal, but if by some chance you have forgotten, or maybe if you're new, understand that it is support the channel or die.
Take your best shot.
Support or die, okay? Because I need y'all, if you value your life and you want to live, okay, I need you to hit like on this video and make sure you are subscribed. And you know what? Comment down below your visceral if you saw this documentary, because, or if you didn't see it and you just gonna hear me talk about it, y'all get down in the comments, because all of this is just insanity, okay? You know what? Let's get into it. Today we are talking the Netflix series Worst Ex Ever. And this literally skipped the line of the content I had coming up because I was just like, I have to talk about this. And I feel like instead of giving this documentary a title that sounds like a damn Taylor Swift song, they should have called the documentary, I don't want to say it again, the police. If you've ever been that idiot asking why women don't go to the police when, the hard R word happens to them, they're assaulted, domestic, why didn't she just leave? Watch this motherfucking documentary. And you can get some insight and answers. Maybe after this documentary, folks will stop telling people that there's a way to be a victim. And hey, you should do these steps, because the steps. Nobody cares until you're dead on the steps, apparently. And that is the real tragedy in all four of the stories that we are covering here. The blatant ways that tragedy could have been avoided. So disclaimer, trigger warning, whatever you want to call it, Worst Ex Ever. And this video will discuss DV, the hard R word against women, the hard sue of the Ives, and all the other things entangled with DV and assault. So jump off now, because it only gets worse from here. It ain't up from here, it's worse from here. I am going to take this episode by episode, which is case by case. So the first episode starts with the friend of a 39-year-old woman named Justine telling the world, or telling the story of how she did more than any of the cops you'll hear about in the whole documentary. I mean, basically, Justine is able to place a call for help, right, to the cops. Hell no. To her friend's mom, and her friend Justine gets in her car because Justine is no longer answering the phone after making the distress call. She races to her friend's house and honestly could have been killed herself. Like, if we being real, because the guy was still there. So basically this first story follows a man named Ben, as well as his exes Amber, Jamie, and Justine, okay? And when I tell you, props to this young lady, what a friend, okay? What a motherfucking friend indeed. Now she does call 911 on the way to her friend's house to explain the situation. She gets there before EMT or cops. Truly heartbreaking account, hearing her tell the story, mixed with us hearing the 911 call, body cam footage, hearing how she is outside of her friend's house, literally hearing her scream for help and banging on the walls for help. I cannot imagine the unexpected sight of carnage and seeing her friend half dead, really. We heard her when we're watching a video, like she's yelling because we could hear the 911 call outside the house trying to get in. I'm here, like saying like help is coming. You're gonna be like, I'm here, Justine, so the girl knows she's not alone. Oh, I'm about to cry thinking about it. Guy named Ben, who Justine had been dating for about 2 months, comes out of the house, right? After the friend been banging. And of course the friend is just confused, like what the so he ends up spinning a tale that, oh, Justine had a heart attack. And she's like, well, what if you ain't called the EMT? But he's like, you know what, you go grab her, I'll grab the car, but so she can get medical attention. But of course, this is just him saying something so he can flee the scene. But she don't give a fuck about him. She's worried about her friend, as she should be. Justine is found with a noose around her neck, badly beaten, bruised, bloody. They do not wrap up this story. Instead, they backtrack and we hear from two of Ben's exes who he also assaulted and attempted to kill. And when I tell you, this man was a menace to women for at least a decade, and the cops, the DA, law enforcement in general didn't give a didn't care. I mean, let's just be real. And I say at least a decade from exes Amber and Jamie from about 2012 to Justine, and I think about 2022 or 2023. But I absolutely do not think it started with them. I'm pretty sure he was literally probably abusive to his high school girlfriend and girlfriends all throughout his life. And it was really interesting how it literally just escalated and all the signs were there. He was able to be pretty much cool in the first relationship with Amber for at least, I think it was at least a year, maybe a year or two. They were dating, then they were living together, and then violence popped off. But it was so crazy how once we get to Justine, he couldn't hide that for very long. She knew that man for 2 months. And when we hear the stories of Amber and then the story of Justine, let me get these ladies' names right. I'm looking off screen to my notes. When we hear the story of Amber, we hear the story of Jamie, we hear the story of Justine, the violence literally escalated. Like the signs were there, the writing was on the wall, but goddamn law enforcement, you know, nobody really give a shit. Now they tell us that Amber ends up meeting Ben, in a relationship with him. Everything is good. She talks about how it was a really normal relationship. He was very sweet. They moved in together. He would leave her little notes about, you know, hope you have a nice day, etc., etc. But I'm gonna be honest. Ooh, baby. It's certain stuff that people have been mad at me for. Well, not people, but men. When I'm like, oh, no, like, I don't talk to guys who do that. Baby, if you... Like, I remember being on this dating website one time. If you got posted up with guns, rifles, hunting, nope, no one I do. I'm sorry, I don't. Law enforcement, nope, I don't. And we're told that Ben, you know, had a passion, and not even just a passion for guns, an obsession for guns. He wanted to be in law enforcement. He would play around with this little knife. Nah, baby. Like, what? He would play, like, pretending to on her, and I'm just like, and she tries to tell us, oh, you know, but it was playful. How the fuck is that? Like, I really need a demonstration. How the fuck can you make this playful? And speaking of, that's something that I really didn't care for in a documentary. Anytime I watch a documentary, a true crime doc or whatever, most notably, I was actually just watching, what's that show on ID channel about like horrible neighbors? I can't think of the name. Sorry, it escapes me. But it's a show where they talk about people who have these horrible neighbors and feuds. All the reenactments I've ever seen are like real life actors reenacting it. Fatal Attraction, you know, all the different stuff. And in this one, the reenactments are animated, and that threw me. Like, that's really odd for me. I didn't like that. But maybe that's just me. Now, the thing that really frustrates me is people feeling like there's an ideal type of victim, or there's an ideal thing you should do if you're a victim. When I tell you, Every single motherfucker in this documentary basically did all the things that people say you should do. You're supposed to do. Why would you stay? Why didn't you leave the first time he hit you? Why didn't you report it? The very first time that Ben puts his hands on Amber, she dips. He smacks her. She dips out. She reports it to the police. When I tell y'all, so she breaks up with him. Okay? She literally does what people say, well, you should do. And also, he ends up just popping up inside of her apartment. Unbeknownst to her, after they broke up, he was stalking her. He just appears. He assaults her. She is able to escape by jumping off of her balcony in her apartment. She goes to the leasing office, calls the police, tries to get help. When I tell y'all, she has already reported this man for assaulting her, and they gave him community service or therapy, like something. So there's a record of him abusing her. Okay. And the cops come. While he was inside of her apartment, he took the knife and like sliced himself, told the police, oh, she instigated it, she started it, she attacked me. And even though this girl, as she says, is covered in her own blood, completely messed up, they arrest her and haul her off to jail. And she spends, I think they say 18 days in jail, 18 hours in jail. And I'm sitting here like, let's play devil's advocate. Let's say you got a woman, two people. One of them is bloody and beat up, and the other one got a little cut on them, and both of them are saying the other person assaulted me. And you don't know who to believe. You just popped up on the scene. Okay, let me play devil's advocate. How about running the motherfucker's name? What the fuck is the point of that little computer inside the little cop car? What y'all be doing, playing motherfucking checkers? Like, look this nigga up. And you could have clearly seen he has a record. He has assaulted her before. She's likely the one telling the truth. This is her residence, not his. So why would he be in her like, it's a lot of stuff you could have done to solve this, as opposed to, oh, we just gonna take his word for it. We finna lock her ass up. And I'll be honest, a part of me was like, it's because she black. Help ain't gonna help us. But, you know, the cops was incompetent and not listen to a motherfucker. Nobody. White, black, young, old. It ain't matter. White, brown. Like, they just was like, we don't give a fuck. Because the girl after this, she don't get no help and she ain't black. The first time the man puts his hands on her, she reports it to the police. She ends the relationship. She doesn't stick around. He stalks her, breaks into her home. He should have been charged with breaking and entering, assault. Like, after escaping with her life, spends 18 hours in jail. And luckily, the judge was like, well, wait a minute. Y'all ain't look up this man's record and dismissed the charges against her. And it was so interesting to me, out of all of these stories, when the department, the cops, they didn't want to comment. So after all of this, Amber gets back to her apartment to find he has cleared all her ish out. And baby said she didn't have underwear, didn't have her birth certificate. Every single solitary one of her belongings were stolen. And he could have really did damage with that. He could have used her birth certificate, social security card, did all kind of ish. Now, later on, time passes, and Amber gets a text from Ben. He going to therapy. He wants to make amends with people he's hurt. So she agrees to meet him. When I tell you, baby, I'm so glad I'm an asshole. Oh my God, I'm so glad that I am not. Look, you got to thank the stars sometimes for your bad traits. Because the amount of like compassion and stuff certain one of the women's had when it came to him, I would just be like, I don't give a. I cannot stand when people want to talk about what happened to them as a child. They finna go to. I don't give a. I don't. It might be melodramatic, but one of the reasons why I had to stop watching Catfish is I could not stand when the catfish person would be playing with people's emotions, deceiving people, lying, wrecking lives, and then they want to sit down and be like, so what happened to you? I don't give a fuck what happened to them. I'm sorry, I don't. Once you are literally damaging other people and harming other people, I don't have any sympathy for you, and I can give a what you went through. I don't. I don't care what happened to you as a child. I don't care if you was abused. I don't care if you got mental. I don't give a fuck. Once you are hurting other people, I don't care. So you can go do all the therapy you want to do in the motherfucking world. Don't contact me after you like choke me out and harm me. But she ends up agreeing to meet with him. And they end up being able to build a relationship again. And one day, it's Christmas Eve. She leaves her phone in the living room with him. She goes to the room to change clothes. I guess he saw something on her phone. He didn't like her or something happened, because I remember her saying that when they were in a relationship, he was jealous and had issues because she was helping an ex-boyfriend get citizenship or something. She was helping him with something, but he was literally in a whole new relationship, in love. Like, it was nothing like that. So I think he sees something on the phone, triggers him, whatever. She comes out of the room. All of a sudden, she don't see him in the living room. He pops up from around the corner, strangles her, assaults her. Y'all. So we end up moving to the young lady, Jamie. And this is when I say I'm glad I'm an a-hole. Because she's like, he lost his job. He couldn't pay his rent. So she likes to move in with her. Baby, you better go ask the government for help. Don't motherfucker ask me. You better ask your mama for help. You better ask your dad. Oh, you lost your job? Okay. Jamie tells us how, Ben had a series of unfortunate events. You mean like being a psychopath? That is a series of unfortunate events. But when so they had a very casual relationship, but she moved him in, wanted to help him out, thinking it would be temporary. And he starts getting violent with her. She's embarrassed to tell her friends. She never thought she would be, as she put it, that woman, with the man that's jumping on her. And it was to the point that she would spend her money staying at hotels because he was literally just a menace in her home. It really reminded me of Baby Boy when Snoop Dogg moved into Taraji P. Henson apartment and took that shit over like it was his. Like, that's basically what this was. Now, after a while of him terrorizing her, being abusive to her, she decides to do the right thing and go to the cops. She gets a restraining order. So the cops come up like, yeah, we gonna go serve him in your residence. And she like, okay, what happened if he don't open the door when y'all go to serve him? They looking at each other like, kind of question, ain't nothing gonna happen. He ain't gonna open the door. That's what's gonna happen. And she's like, okay, well, can you escort me inside so I don't get beaten up and I can get my things? Baby, the police was basically like, oh, you dumb bitch. You thought we was here to help you? No, we gonna do the serve part, but we gonna do the protect part. We gonna go serve your door this, because they end up just sticking it on the door, because why would he answer the door? And when I tell you the way I would have sued, Ed motherfucker, I could have sued. Because literally, they leave her high and dry. They serve an abusive man in her residence in order to stay away from her, and they just dip out and go get sandwiches and cookies or something. I don't know. They weren't doing any protecting service. I don't know what they was doing. And literally, once they leave, and she has no choice but to go into this apartment by herself, because what was she supposed to do? Because, oh, wait, you dumb bitch, you thought we was here to help you? No. He holds her captive for 16 days, beating her, shaves her head, holds a gun to her to keep her from leaving, between tying her up to keep her from leaving. The way I would have sued that motherfucker, I could have sued. I can't stand when people want to talk ish, when people claim to be a victim, but it's about money. Fuck that shit. I'm suing every motherfucker I could sue. Because there's no other real recourse for me to do, so I'm just going to sue every motherfucker I could sue. Because this literally happens because of the incompetence of the police. Because they did not do anything in any shape, way, or form to help the girl. And let's say, let's say, because there's always somebody want to defend the motherfucking police. Let's say, oh, it's nothing legally they could do. Okay, that's fine. You could still, as just a human being, because in any other situation, cops want to flex their authority, whether it's legal or not. Y'all could have helped this girl. She could have unlocked her door. The cops could have been there, escorted her in. Like, you could have done something as opposed to, oh, we gonna serve the abuser, tick that nigga off, and just leave her here. Because what do you expect us to do? We don't expect a motherfucking thing from you. I don't. So, after being held captive in that apartment for about 16 days, they end up no food, no water. Her cars are maxed out, so they can't order anything. So they go to a store. And she has a little dog. And the whole time I was like, if this motherfucker hurt this dog. But no, he one of them. He loved the damn dogs. He do nothing to the dog, child. He goes to walk the dog. She walks in the store. She's trying to ask the clerk for help. Like, is it a room I could barricade myself in? We ain't got no room. Is it can I go out a back door? So she runs out a back door and flees. She ends up in the hospital because the police. The police. Once she's admitted and they see the horrid state she's in, how she has literal eye damage, 7 broken ribs. How many fucking ribs do we have? Because she has 7 of them broken. The nurse is like, oh, well, we had no choice but to call the cops. So the cops come in, give us the name of the person who did this to you. Give y'all his name for what? So you can add it to the baby name book? Because what the else are y'all gonna do with it? Y'all ain't do shit else with his name. Ain't even run the motherfucker's name before when he hurt Amber. The fuck I'm gonna give y'all the name? Baby, the way I ought to say y'all motherfuckers got me in this situation. I called y'all. I got the protection order. I did what I'm supposed to do. And this happened to me after I talked to y'all. So what if I talk to y'all now? So she does give them the names. The DA is going to, now remember, while all this is going on, Amber had a case against that motherfucker. Amber had a case that ain't nobody give a shit about. So they end up lumping in Jamie's case and Amber's case because, hey, we don't want Amber to say we ain't do nothing. So, just throw her name in there. Put both of them together because, we want to make it look like we're doing some kind of work. And, of course, Jamie ain't want to testify in court. She didn't want to be in his presence. Baby, why would, reliving this, being in his presence, all of that is so triggering and damaging. No. And I'm with her on that. And it really pissed me off and felt like such a cop-out when the DA is like, well, we need a willing victim to testify. Baby, somebody dead, they ain't here to testify, and y'all sure can lock motherfuckers up when they kill somebody. I agree with Amber. Y'all have enough pictures and physical evidence. There's no reason that she has to go testify. I just feel like that's bull. So they combined the cases of Amber from 2017, Jamie from 2019. He pleaded guilty to lesser domestic charges. He literally tried to unalive Amber. He literally broke into her residence. He literally held Jamie captive for a little over half a month. He literally assaulted this girl. And y'all charged him with a lesser DV. Huh? Well, if that's lesser, if all that is lesser, what the fuck is major? He ends up being sentenced for all of that to 30 months in jail. He gets credit for the time he's already served. Because, while you on trial, you be in jail. So he ends up serving 24 months after assaulting, and really for me, it's attempted murder on Amber, and kidnapping and holding hostage. Baby, should this be motherfucking federal charges? And after all of that, he's able to leave Nevada, which is where he assaulted these 2 women, and just head on over to Oregon. And that's when we jumped to, I think it was 2022 or 2023, of Justine in a coma. They didn't think she would make it. Ben ends up on the run from the cops. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to go in on his parents for a little second, because I feel like they was fake helping. So he's on the run. The cops are trying to find him. They find out his parents are in the area. They go talk to the parents, and the parents are like, he was here about 8 p.m. last night grabbing a bunch of clothes. We asked if he was moving in with Justine. Excuse me? Why y'all ain't warned that poor girl? You know your son crazy. You know your son has a history of violence against women. What you mean? Oh, are you moving in with Justine? That threw me. I'm sorry. That threw me. And then when the cop is like, well, I can't really give you too many details, but the young lady is in the hospital and she is badly. Oh, no, he didn't say badly. He said she's really, and I think he said about 5 reallys, really, really, really bad shape. Like trying to really bring it home. Really bad shape. And the dad is just like, well, that fits what he did in Vegas. You know what I'm saying? Sound like that nigga. So you know your son is violent against women. And when he comes to your house for clothes, your only thing is, oh, so you're moving in with the new woman? After you violently beat, held captive, tried to kill the previous 2 women? 2 that we know of in the documentary, but I know it's more. And I know the parents know it's more. And then, what also made me feel like they was fake helping was they end up finding that Ben, after being on the run for, I think, 2 days, they find out that he's been staying at this woman Tina's house, who was a friend of his family. They go to church together. You can't tell me y'all ain't know your son was at the church friend house. I don't believe it. But what the hell do I know? I'm just speculating. And they arrest Tina for harboring a fugitive, even though she tried to say, I didn't know. I ain't believe that shit either. Arrest everybody. Just arrest them. Just arrest everybody. So after being on the run for a while, and I was honestly surprised how long this nigga was able to stay on the run. I'm being honest with you. The law enforcement pulled in people. I think they pulled in the damn marshal. Y'all still can't find this nigga? So a cab driver calls in a tip that, this guy was trying to get a cab, but he was trying to use like the credit card of someone that was older. I knew the young man wasn't him, so I refused to pick him up. They end up finding the neighbor of Tina, him and his caretaker, murdered by Ben. If only y'all would have listened to Amber. If only y'all would have listened to Jamie, took what he did to them more serious. Poor Justine should have never been in this man's path. Period. These two extra men should have never been in this man's path. He was literally able to just carve a path of destruction and devastation, wreaking havoc with every person he came into contact with. So we finally get to hear from Justine, because I gotta tell you, anytime, it's this show I used to love on ID channel called Stalked, where people tell accounts of when they were stalked. Anytime, I started to learn after a few episodes, anytime it's a family member and not the person telling the story, that means they didn't make it. So when we don't hear from Justine the whole time, I'm thinking baby didn't make it. But she pops in at the end, which, man, thank you, Jesus. She popped in at the end to tell her story. She ended up waking up from the coma, but she had to learn to walk again. She had to have dental surgery because he punched all of her teeth out. She has, I think they said, permanent brain damage for the rest of her life, but she is thankful to be alive. At the very end of this pursuit with him being on the run, what if he come back to Justine's house? Now, what if it's my house in it? Like, what if you at my house? Like, that pissed me off. He goes to Justine's house. A neighbor saw him. I think they said they saw him walking a dog. Was that this moment? Like, what the fuck you doing? But they go to search the house, and I will say these were the least incompetent cops that we came across, because they go to search the house and they're like, he's not here, he's nowhere. When I tell you, all the other cops and all the other situations would have just been like, all right, threw their hands up and left. But these cops was actually like, you know what, we need to check again, let's check everything, check all around the house, like, and come to find out that was a smart move, because he was hiding in a crawl space under the house. And the thing that pissed me the off was he takes himself out. He had a gun and he took himself out. Why do people like this never just take themselves out to begin with? Why they gotta freaking cause devastation and destruction to everybody else first. I will never understand that. Like, just take yourself out. Like, that boils my blood. That pisses me off so bad. I cannot even, like, I just don't understand it. Like, I don't want to understand it. Like, why you can't just do that in the first place? That's just episode 1. That's just episode 1. The way episode 2 infuriated me so bad, I wanted to punch everybody I came across. Like, I don't, like, the way that first story was tragic in the fact that the tragedy could have been avoided, right? At least, at minimum, before he made his way to Justine and then killing those 2 men. Like, at least by that point. But the way episode 2 just infuriated me and boiled my blood. Like, I thought my skin was gonna melt off because my blood was so hot. Another story of a person doing the right thing, a victim doing what you're supposed to do. So the next episode talks about Simona and a guy named Jerry, right? Simona was a single mother, hardworking. She like worked on finance and opened her own restaurant. And she went through a family tragedy. She ends up meeting this detective named Jerry. And this ain't go nowhere I thought it would go. Because my first thought was, oh, he on the police force, so that means she ain't gonna get no help because all his buddies is the police force. So she meets this detective, Jerry. They start dating. She has a successful restaurant. She is very busy, very much the overachiever. But the little time she has, she's spending with him. The daughter ain't like him. Pay attention when your kids don't like somebody you dating, child. All of a sudden, I think after like a few years of dating, Simona gets a call to her restaurant, and it's a woman on the phone claiming to be Jerry's wife, saying he's lying to you. He has a wife and 2 kids. Oh, is he telling you that he's a detective? That's a lie too. And I was confused, like, okay, is New York an open carry state? Because baby walk around carrying a gun on his hip like a cop. Like, how can he just walk around the streets with that? So another person like Amber, who does the right thing, doesn't put up with the mess, gets out of the relationship. She confronts Jerry. Of course, he just really ain't got nothing to say. So she is literally just like, hey, no hard feelings, but we're over. So he pops up at, before I even get to him popping up at her house after they broke up, there was a friend of Jerry's that was talking that really pissed me off at first. But by the end, I was like, all right, bro. Like, okay, I'm going to give you some credit. But he pissed me off at first because, and he wanted to stay anonymous, was like, he don't want anyone to know he was friends with such a low life or whatever. But it pissed me off because when he's first talking, he's saying how, he knew that Jerry was married and dating other girls and dating Simona, and he was my drinking buddy and we would just hang out, and I don't know why a woman like Simona would waste her time with him. Well, you helping him with his facade and his lie. What do you mean? Like, that pisses me off so bad when niggas is like, oh, he a deadbeat daddy. He beat up on women. He prey on minors. Oh, that my drinking buddy. That my homie. What? Like, oh, who cares about the damage my drinking buddy and my homie is causing? We cool. But he do none of that to me, though, so we cool. So he was pissing me off when he first got in the documentary. But we'll jump back to him and why I was like, okay, I'm going to give you a little grace. Because in the end, he does step up and do the right thing when he doesn't have to and nobody else motherfucking did. Besides one person who eventually does. But another person, I meant. So they break up and Jerry pops up at Simona's house. He shows up wanting to talk and she is refusing to open the door like it's over. So he's like, okay, let me just give you your keys. The way I was screaming, like, girl, tell him to lay them keys on the porch and go. Whatever happens, don't open that door. Like, say F the keys and just change your locks. Like, come on. Like, I was just like, I know what it's like. I just felt it in my bones where this was gonna go. So once he is able to not get her to open the door, but finally can get her to open the door, he's like, okay, I'll give you your keys. The second she opens the door, he attacks her, pulls out this duct tape. He has a gun, and he's pleading for them to get back together, threatens to take himself out, and then he drags her to the basement and hard R-word her. She does what you're supposed to do and the right thing. Immediately calls the cops, reports the assault. He ends up being arrested, and his mother pays his bail, which I think was like $100,000. Baby, the mom posting the bail was so unhinged and disgusting. I'm sorry. Like, a mother's love needs to know some goddamn limits. Like, I'm not going to love my child through the hard R-apist life. Now, the amount of people, that's why I say this one was really, really, really infuriating me. Because the amount of people complicit in everything that was going on with the abuser is what made this even more disgusting. So they're going to trial on this case. And his friends and even his mother, people are contacting her to drop the charges. What? Now we're to the point, and I was annoyed why it was taking so long to get to the motherfucking trial. We're about 2 months out from the trial. Simona gets pulled over by the cops. She gets handcuffed, and she's confused, like what did I do? Why am I getting arrested? Why are we going to Long Island? They don't tell her anything. She's interrogated for hours, and still she don't even know what she's been charged with. She sees that the police that are interrogating her has a folder, and she sees Jerry's picture. She's like, wait, if this has something to do with him, I have a case against him. Like, he's setting me up. He's framing me. They start talking about impersonating the police, and she's like, that's Jerry. Won't listen to her. 14 hours interrogated, and she still don't know what she's been charged with. She ends up getting taken to the courthouse, and that's when she learns she's getting charged with armed robbery, like impersonating a cop, in armed robbery. And she's taken to jail on a bail of $1 million. So you mean to tell me, not that any of this is a shock, awe, or surprise, because the system gonna system, but you mean to tell me Jerry can hard R-word this woman and get $100,000 bail? Which, what is it when you make bail? What do you have to pay? 5%? 15%? Something in that realm. But this woman gets arrested for impersonating an officer in armed robbery. And this wasn't like, no, because isn't when it's a certain amount of money, it turns into grand larceny? The money she was accused of stealing was like low bucks. You mean to tell me that's $1 million bill? And for a woman with no criminal record, no criminal history, never been in trouble, stand-up citizen, first offense, not even found guilty, like just arrested and suspected, and I got $1 million bail? And what's freaking funny is the way people always cape for cops and justice system and talk shit about defense attorneys. I'm looking at you, SVU. Okay, I don't care how much SVU tries, you will never get me to hate defense attorneys. Out of all 4 stories we hear, the most stand-up motherfucker out of the judicial system was the defense attorney. Yo, big up to him, for real. For real. It is always so crazy to me at the blatant falsehoods that get mass believed and spread around. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled is convincing the world that men are logical and not emotional. Baby, the proof is in our face every day. So I don't know how that but baby, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled. The other one is only guilty people need an attorney. No. The main people that need an attorney are the ones that are innocent. Period. Oh, just when I tell you, I always say, if you get arrested, when I tell you don't say I wouldn't say my name. Lawyer. Like all I'm saying is lawyer. Get me lawyer. I want to get a lawyer. I'm not saying nothing. I'm not answering no question. I'm not saying anything. Nothing. Get an attorney. Don't say nothing. You can get my ID out of my possession. That's how you can get my name. I'm not saying a motherfucking word. Well, just tell us where you were Tuesday. Lawyer. Well, just tell us where you at the corner of lawyer. Literally. It's just so crazy to me, though, the stuff that just gets like spread and believed, man. And I mean, from a young age, it ain't make no sense to me. Like, what do you mean only the guilty need what? Oh, you asking for an attorney? Hell yeah. It is just so astonishing to me that a first offense, you can get yoked up off the street out the blue, interrogated for almost 15 hours without even knowing what you're charged with. And I don't know, they didn't specify if she waived her right to an attorney, but to be interrogated for 15 hours without even knowing what I'm charged with. Now, what we end up finding out is that we have 3 witnesses who called in being robbed by someone who was a police officer, right? And this is why I said this one was boiling my blood, because it took more than Jerry to do all the ish he was doing. He is able to pay 3 people and like chump change, like money you will go through quickly, to call in and say that they were robbed. The first person couldn't get a license plate. The second person claimed to have a partial plate. So then by the time we get to the third person, they have the full plate, which is Simona's. And they pick her out of a photo lineup, right? Now, what I also thought, and this is, child, when I tell you I don't believe in the justice system in no shape, way, or form, cops, none of it, and people always just go up for it. The way that Simona's lawyer tells us how she has an ironclad alibi for the date of one of the robberies. Because if I didn't do one, I mean I didn't do none. In this type of how this crime was. She was literally at a public casino with her family, caught on surveillance tape, and her cell phone was pinging from the casino. Oh, nah, the video ain't clear. We can't really tell that's her. Oh, anybody could have used her cell phone and made them calls. And it's funny to me, the excuses cops and DAs and stuff use, depending on what side of the coin is on. Because in any other case, when somebody is accused of a crime, they will use where your phone is pinging to prove you're guilty. But to prove her innocence, y'all want to say anybody could have had the phone? And the lawyer is literally like, all we have to do is because Simona's whole defense is Jerry set this up to avoid the R-word case. And her lawyer is saying it is so simple to prove. I just need the phone records to show contact between the witnesses and Jerry. Do you know, I think they said the DA denied his access to the phone records. The way everybody need to burn in the hot place. The way every single one of these people need to burn in the hot place. I would really like to know the reasoning and rationale for why this lawyer was denied access to the phone records that would prove his client's whole defense. The friend I was telling y'all about earlier that was pissing me off, He ends up, after Simona is in jail for like 141 days, which Lord. And when I tell it's like my worst nightmare, and I always be like, when I see shows where somebody is wrongfully arrested and don't have an alibi, I be like, Lord, if anything like this ever happened, please let me be somewhere public and have an alibi. But that didn't even matter for Simona. She was public. She had an alibi. Baby was still sitting in jail. So after she's been in jail for like 141 days at this point, the friend I was telling you about earlier ends up like, I think he saw it on the news or he heard about it, but he finds out she's in jail. And he's like, wow, Jerry really did it. And Jerry actually came to him first about being one of the witnesses and paying him. And he declined, but he knows for a fact one of the witnesses because he was there for a conversation. So he ends up going to that person, which this pissed me off when I see it in the movie, or I can't believe people do this in real life. Why would he go up to the man like, I'm going to tell the police if you don't, this is wrong. You never go to the person. But shoot, you can't even go to the police, so I don't even know what the hell you supposed to do. And the friend who was the fake witness is like, oh, I feel bad, and yeah, I'm going to tell the cops no. What he does is he goes to the cops and say, this person was sent by Simona tampering with witnesses. This fool get arrested and goes to jail. It is so astonishing to me how when people are actually guilty of doing stuff, they be claiming to the victim, we can't do nothing. There's a burden of proof. But when people innocent, that burden of proof be very, very thin. Because did y'all even prove a connection between this supposed friend of Simona who is tampering with the witnesses? Like, did y'all even prove any type of contact between them? Like, how do you just say, oh, you tampering with the witness and throw somebody in jail? Don't prove a damn thing. I'm like, what the hell? When they said that this man was arrested, I literally about fell out. I literally fell out. So after a while, there's a girlfriend of Jerry, and I'm be honest, she pissed me off. She does eventually do the right thing, but so this woman, Sophia Lewis, she went to the right cop or DA this time, different borough, so I don't know what happened. She found the right person. And she tells them how Jerry was talking to her about how he wanted to set up his ex-girlfriend. The robbery was staged. It's not real. And what was pissing me off with her is she knew he was actively doing this. And the only thing she said to him was, well, I don't want to hear nothing else about it. Like, don't tell me nothing. What? But I ain't gonna give baby too much because if she would not have popped up and did the right thing eventually, I really feel like Simona would have been found guilty. And I think they said she was facing 50 years. So it was like something crazy time. Like her and the friend would have just been sitting in jail and Jerry would have got away with everything if this one girl did not step up. So I ain't gonna give her too much because she did in fact step up. Because I really, really feel like the way it was going, especially the fact that my defense is somebody set this up, but y'all wouldn't even let me prove it. I really feel like she would have probably been found guilty. She would have probably been found guilty. After 194 days in jail, which of course she loses her restaurant, they foreclose on her house. She is not only assaulted, drugged to the basement of her own home, brutalized, but she is again assaulted by the system and the people that are supposed to protect and serve her. This one really broke my heart, infuriated me. I could cry thinking about it because it literally feels like anybody could be Simona. It literally feels like you could be Simona. She never did anything in her life to be caught up in anything with law enforcement. And spent 194 days in jail when she had a clear alibi. Now we end up being told that Jerry was a CI at different points and leveraged the knowledge that he knew to be able to put this together. Which basically I feel like the knowledge he knew was cops are stupid. Every time I be watching a movie like The Fugitive or different stuff, you know how in movies they always make the detectives and cops really incompetent and stuff? I always be like, are cops really as dumb in real life as they're portrayed in movies? And the answer is an astounding yes. What her daughter went through, what she went through, what her family went through, I just, anytime they talk about a miscarriage against justice or a injustice, this was just so, I don't even know the words. It was beyond all of that. It was beyond all of that. So they end up building a case against Jerry. The initial case that Simona had with the assault case and the conspiracy case, they put it together because, of course, the motive for the whole conspiracy was that first assault case. So, Jerry got 32 years total, and was still, excuse me, oh wow, came out of nowhere, was still claiming his innocence. Like, but the way that when they say Simona brought a case against the detective and Nassau County, the way I was cheering, because that's what was baby name from the first one? That's what Justine should have did. And really that's what Amber should have did. Because Amber shouldn't have been arrested. Even though Amber wasn't in jail for months on end like Simona, I shouldn't have even been in jail for the 18 days or 18 hours that she was in jail. I should have even been arrested. This man assaulted me previously. It was on record. All you literally had to do was look it up. Like the way I felt like Justine should have sued the DA and all them and the cops in Vegas, because he should have never made it to Oregon to do nothing to her. I was so elated Simona sued, sue them all. And I'ma sue the fake witnesses. Like, I'm just gonna sue everybody. I really feel like it was a full, like, the detective, the cop. I feel like to an extent was in on it with Jerry. Because this is your CI. You don't know he running around with a gun on his hip pretending to be a cop? Like, I still don't understand how he was able to do that. Like, pretend to be a cop, yeah, but walk around with a gun on your hip pretending to be a detective? And the friend who came forward but got arrested because they didn't believe him, he said how they was riding the car one day and got pulled over, and Jerry used to carry a little badge in his wallet, but he never show you the badge. You just would see it through, like, the wallet. They got pulled over. He flashed it. The cops just let them go. That sounds like incompetence to me. Because if you, let's say they don't know Jerry, don't know he's a known CI. You didn't even look at the badge. What the hell? And I absolutely loved when Simona's lawyer said that the prosecutors were asleep at the wheel and the detectives were bumbling buffoons and dishonest. Absolutely. Yo, throw one up for the defense attorneys, man. For real. I can't stand on, and I love SVU. I love Law & Order. That's my show. It's a good show, but I cannot stand the way they portray the justice system. But that's a conversation for a whole nother day, child. Because the way I got different eyes when it comes to Elliot and Olivia. But it just tripped me out when they are always calling the lawyers like bottom feeders and like, what? Like the defense attorneys, not just lawyers, the defense attorneys on SVU, they always call them bottom feeders. You scale. We need to go up for the defense attorneys. We need them. I feel like they're the only people in the justice system we could damn trust, if you ask me. I would never date a cop, a DA, but I'd date a defense attorney. I might get a lot of people unsubscribing from this video because it's fuck the police all day. Because this right here, I mean, y'all, I'm talking about a travesty that happened to this woman. A travesty. So the case where Simona sued the detective, the county, I think they said 7 years, which I thought was ridiculous. 7? Y'all know y'all motherfuckers was wrong. And I feel like what should have really propelled this, and it shouldn't have taken 7 years, was when Jerry's whole case, he was found guilty. That ain't enough leverage. 7 years after baby was assaulted, wrongfully arrested, held in prison for months, lost her dreams, her business, her job, everything she worked for, her house, 7 years later, they agreed to settle out of court and pay her $2 million. And I'm sure it wasn't tax-free. That was not enough money. And I completely understand Simona being like, she would have taken any settlement they gave her. It was more so about she just wanted to win. I get that. And I get the sentiment, which is why I say I'm going to sue every motherfucker. If you assaulted, if you a victim, sue every motherfucker. Sue them all. For real. But $2 million after taxes, I know that ain't tax free. I know it ain't. When you get a settlement, I just feel like that's not tax free. That ain't enough. That ain't enough. Like, nothing is enough, but that ain't enough. Period. Oh, but it gets worse. Oh, the episode's gonna get worse, though. And you would think it can't get no worse than that. Oh, but they get worse. And I just kept getting more and more frustrated and infuriated with each episode. Like, my heart hurt so bad for Simona. Because she's, like, everybody in all the episodes are victims. But to be a victim and then be a victim by the system, well, everybody was victim of the system, goddamn. But to be a victim by the system and incarcerated and lose your livelihood and lose your dream, like, I don't even know how you come back from that. And Simona was sitting there, put together, beautiful. Like, you wouldn't have thought she ever had a care in the world. And I'm just like, how the hell do you come back from that? I remember she was talking about being in prison, like being strip searched. She was losing weight. She was getting constant ear infections. Oh, but this next case finna really infuriate you. Oh, this next case finna really get you. Okay, this video is way too damn long. We still got 2 episodes, so I'm gonna have to edit a lot out. But I'm finna try and just like get through these last 2 episodes like real quick because this video is way too long. The very next episode is Eric and Rosa. Eric was, just this nerdy guy. His coworker May invites him on a hike with other coworkers where Eric meets her daughter, Rosa. Rosa is like his first real girlfriend. She's an engineer. He thinks she's very, intelligent, and they fall in love. And they end up getting married. Now, she had like these weird signs, kind of right off the bat, where he would talk to his dad like weekly, and she would pick up the other phone, be listening in on their phone calls, to the point that Eric had a code word to clue his dad in that she was listening. Eric's best friend said how he didn't really like her, but something with her was off, but he just didn't feel right saying anything, so he just held his tongue, which I don't blame you. I don't tell grown folk nothing. Like, I don't. If it's something with my friends, whoever they dating, I don't say a word. Like, they grown. And people ain't gonna listen to you anyway, which is basically why I don't say nothing. But Rosa would also do this weird thing. I've seen little kids do this. I've never heard of an adult doing this, where instead of her just talking to people, like if they were around his family or something, she would whisper, put her hand up, whisper in his ear, and he would relay the message. I thought that was very odd. On their honeymoon, they get into a argument. Eric was saying how Rosa had like a real bad attitude the whole time. And she goes off to try and like punch him in the face, but she misses. After that, of course, we know, or he knows, she has the capacity for violence. Even though she didn't actually hit him, she's capable of violence. And she was, abusive in a lot of other ways. He was forced to distance himself from his family. She didn't work. He was working 2 jobs, working overtime. She had access to all the assets, all the money. He really didn't have anything. They end up having a little baby girl together, and about 2 years after being married, with control of all the assets, he's kicked out of his own home. He had a grandmother that he was very close to, and he ends up knocking on her door, and she was nice enough to let him move in with her, which they talk about how she was nice enough to do that even though he had been distant from the family. But I think the family probably understood that he wanted distance from them because like he ain't like them, ain't give a ish about them. I think they probably pretty much understood it was his wife. Rosa refused to let him see his daughter. And literally the second I was saying, why men don't just ever file for custody? Like, I always hear the woman using the child and she won't let me see my child. And I'm always like, why you don't just file for custody? Like, I never understand that. Like, you have a legal right to your child. Like, it's not up to the other parent. But literally the second I was thinking that, he says how he was tired of her not letting him see his daughter, their daughter. So he sued for custody, and he ended up getting 50-50 custody, which upset Rosa. She ended up calling his job to say, because he did say how with everything going on with his marriage, he was in a depression and had to be put on medication. And I forget what his job was, but there was like a stipulation about like your mental health. So the job knew he was on meds, and he was like a provision where he had to be on them. So Rosa calls into the job to say, oh, he off his meds, and he's talking about shooting the place up. So they end up putting him on this probation or whatever, but it ends up being cleared up, found to be false accusations. Rosa then tries to accuse him of assaulting the daughter, the S word, assaulting the daughter, S.A. the daughter. But all these allegations are found to be false, and she keeps being more unhinged, making up stuff, to the point that the custody keeps swinging more in his favor, all the way until he is granted 85% physical custody and 100% legal custody, which I gotta Google. I'm not sure what the difference is between legal custody and physical custody, because I feel like that's not the same thing. But anyway, now her mother, which is his ex-coworker, May, who introduced them, she was kind of a cordial go-between. He was saying how, to his knowledge, there was no grudge, there was no bad blood with the grandmother, with the ex-wife mother. Everything was all good. Let's fast forward. His grandmother, who he is living with, she's like 91 years old. She had a boyfriend, Lester, who they would have these regular, like, scheduled phone calls every single I don't want to say every single day because I can't remember exact, but maybe every day. But they had a schedule of they would talk at a set time. So Lester goes to call, she doesn't answer the phone, and he keeps calling, and you can hear the messages he's leaving. He's worried because this is like a schedule. This is clockwork. She should be here to pick up the phone, and she's 91. She can't go anywhere like on her own. She would be home. So Lester ends up sending his son and his daughter-in-law to please go do a wellness check. And just as they pull up to do the wellness check, Eric pulls up with his daughter, like home from work, home from picking her up. So they go. Now, this is what I kind of didn't understand, but I guess you don't really think something is about to go down. But they go into the house, and Eric leaves the son and daughter-in-law downstairs while him and his little 2-year-old daughter goes upstairs to look for his grandmother. And my immediate thought was, you don't know what you're going to walk in on. What if your grandmother had a heart attack? What if she's laying there dead? You don't want your 2-year-old to see that. I would think you would leave the child downstairs, but maybe he didn't know the son and daughter-in-law. I don't know. It's a lot of rational reasons why he would have brought the daughter upstairs. But my immediate thought was like, no one can get in touch with your elderly grandmother who was in poor health. I think they said by this point she was 91. I just felt like, why didn't you leave your daughter downstairs? But all this is gonna come in handy. He gets upstairs. He doesn't see his grandmother anywhere. All of a sudden, May pops up, and I still wasn't understanding his actions. She should not be in your house. But he's like, where's my grandmother? What are you doing here? And May is like, oh, she called me. You know your grandma ain't called this lady. And he's like, she goes to tell your grandmother's in the garage. He even says there was no reason my grandmother would be in the garage. But he hands his daughter over to May. This is why I was so confused. So when you were downstairs with the other 2 people and went upstairs to look for your grandmother, you brought your daughter with you. So why now that you're finna go from this bedroom to the garage to look for your grandmother, why did you hand your daughter over to May? But I mean, I guess it's easy to kind of nitpick or break apart someone's decisions. Like, you're just in the moment. Like, I get he probably wasn't factoring in. He did not know him or his daughter was in danger in any way. So he hands the daughter over to May, goes out into the hallway, and Rosa pops up, tases him. May hits him over the head. They start attacking him. They lock his daughter in like a dark bathroom. Like, that threw me off. Like, first of all, this whole thing is sick, but why did you leave her in the dark? You couldn't turn the light on? Like, you couldn't try to perpetrate a little bit for the little girl? And of course, as he's getting attacked, remember, we have 2 people downstairs. They hear, I think they said they heard what they thought was a gunshot. Like, they could hear him being attacked. So they flee for safety to the neighbors and call the cops. And I truly, truly feel like if grandma ain't have a boyfriend who cared about her and a boyfriend, they didn't have the schedule. If these two people had not been in the house, Eric would have been dead. Like, Eric would have been dead. They assault him. May holds a gun to him and says, will you give up custody of the daughter? And it was so heartbreaking. Jesus. Hearing Eric recount the story, and he's saying how he couldn't do anything for his daughter. He just didn't want to die. So he agreed, like, yes, I'll give you custody. Now, the cops show up, and this pissed me off, but I will say in this instance, I don't think the cops were being incompetent, and I did understand where they were coming from. I just feel like, damn it gotta be better procedures or something. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, these cops were not terrible like the other cops we've come across. But the cops pop up, and the way the cops come up the stairs, they were to the back of Eric, not like in front of him. And they tell everybody, freeze, don't move. But Eric is like, Rosa is still holding a gun on him and could shoot him at any time. So he's not finna freeze and not move. He's trying to duck and dodge and move around so that she cannot shoot him. So since he didn't comply with freezing, they tased him, which thank God he was tased and not shot. And he even made, and I can just feel like, God, I can't imagine how awful this was, because he makes it a point to say their taser was way more harsh, strong, whatever, than the taser Rosa was using on them. And he was trying to fight back when he was attacked. So they see him bloody and beat up, but they also see May bloody and beat up. They don't know who's the perpetrator, who's the victim. So they arrest everybody. And it was so sad. The detective gets on scene, because you know it'd be the cops, then it'd be the detective. The detective gets on scene. Eric is handcuffed in the back of the police car screaming, where's my daughter? Where's my grandmother? Like, he still does not know where his grandmother is. And y'all fucking arrested him. Like, I was just so upset. But again, I will say, I get it. The cops came on scene. It's a bloody mess. Multiple people are hurt. They cannot tell what the situation is. It just really, I felt so bad. They go, to search the house and the property for the grandmother. CPS is called and gets the little girl. And different cops are with May and Rosa at the precinct interviewing them. And Rosa made them try to say it was self-defense. She came to the house to talk about custody or something, and he just attacked them. But these cops actually had a little brain to be like, this is his residence. He should be here. This isn't their residence. They should not be here. A gun is found on Rosa, which they tried to say, oh, he had a gun and somehow I got it. But they are able to deduce that Eric is the victim. They also are tuned into like the demeanor. They say how Eric is like disheveled and frantic, and Rosa and May have this eerie calmness. They also execute a search warrant on their house. Oh yeah, and they found their car a few blocks away. So all that sounds suspicious. If I'm going to visit somebody to talk or whatever, custody, whatever, I'm not gonna park blocks away or up the street from the house that I'm visiting. But they go to the house, and all the evidence you would need is literally gift wrap. First of all, to the house, they brought like a backpack that clearly showed it was stuff in there for two people, 2 guns, 2 tasers. They had all type of stuff for burglary and kidnapping. A sword was even found in the car. And the evidence in the house shows writing in both of their handwriting. They were both writing about getting revenge for Rosa, getting custody back for Rosa, stalking Eric, and basically also Google searching how to get away with murder, how to commit murder, poisoning, and all kind of different stuff. And they found DNA on a taser of Sally, Eric's grandmother, on the prongs to prove that she was tased. And then on the handle, they found Rosa's DNA. And the whole operation of custody was, and I hate when people be like collateral damage in other people's mess. It hurts my soul. And I feel like it hurts my soul when stuff like this happens to the elderly. Like, I done survived 91 years. And y'all come and do this, but the whole thing was, we're going to murder the grandmother, blame it on Eric, get him to write a note saying the grandmother found out he essayed the daughter, that's why he took her out, and then he gonna take himself out. They gonna take him out, but it's gonna be like a suit of the Ives, / taking out the grandmother. And the custody would have to go to Rosa, and they would find out that she didn't make up the essay assaults and all those allegations. And I'm just like, so this poor woman who ain't got nothing to do with nothing gotta lose her life just for your little game. It's like she ain't got nothing to do with it. And I remember being so confused before we get to this point, like, why would they do something to the grant? Like, why would they take her out? Like, she wasn't in nothing. We hear from Eric's dad, and I just can't imagine your mother living to 91 years old and being taken out. But I love what the dad said when he's like, all these years later, I'm still angry. They say you should forgive. Fuck forgiveness. I'm be honest. I cannot stand when people put that on people. I'm not forgiving you. I'm not. But there was a lot of collateral damage in this. Of course, Sally lost her life. Her boyfriend Lester passed away less than a year later. And I could cry right now thinking about it. Jesus. Eric's dad talking about how... Oh, God, I'm finna cry. Eric's dad talking about how Lester wanted the ashes, and they would go over there and he would be talking to him, and he's happy that Lester and Sally had each other for those, I think 10 or 11 years. Eric lost his mother. Eric lost his grandmother. His dad lost his mother. And God, the daughter, who I think is now maybe in her late teens, I think they said. Now, the very last story, is about Amanda and Kevin. And one thing that I was very happy that, and I hope this really shines some light and awareness on just and what's so crazy to me is all the trash that people can talk and be so boisterous about things that they would do regarding situations they've never been in, like judging other people, like the whole thing about like, why don't women leave? If someone is abusing you, why you stay? And why you ain't reported? And one thing that I really loved that Amanda said in episode 4 was, had I known that the most dangerous time in a DV situation is when you try to leave, I would have done things differently. And I feel like I don't understand why people don't factor that in when it's like, well, why you don't just leave? You can't, it's not easy to just leave. Like, that is literally, a lot of people are taken out when they try to leave a DV situation. Like, that is a very dangerous time. This was another collateral damage story that is truly heartbreaking. And I feel like anytime kids are involved, it's also heartbreaking. Oh, Lord. But Amanda ended up meeting this guy named Kevin. He had a great relationship with her siblings. Seemed like just all around great guy. Except for her sister Punky, who thought Kevin was arrogant, didn't like him. But they say that, it fell on deaf ears. Everybody was crazy about him. 7 months of dating, they moved in together. He asked for her hand in marriage, to her dad. And they end up having 3 kids, very, very close together. I want to say the first child was about 3 months old when she popped up pregnant again. And she talks about how a lack of affection was an issue. Him calling her names and putting her down was an issue. When she was pregnant with their last child, which I think was the son, is the youngest, he called her like a fat bitch. Just terribly emotionally abusive. And what irks me. And that's why I'm like, I really hope stuff like this, documentaries in general, can bring awareness so people can like get a glimpse into situations they just don't understand. Because I was actually just talking about this to my aunt. It irks me when people make blanket statements, about, not getting divorced, work through it. That's the only parent you'll have. Or like when people say certain, you don't have a clue. You don't have a clue. Like, there was a situation somebody told me about where they were a kid, not a kid, but like able to drive. They were driving their parents somewhere. They went through a drive-through, and the person at the drive-through was like, "Oh, cherish your mother. You only get one." You don't know this person coming through the drive-through from a can of paint. Her parent is abusive, and you're telling her, "Oh, you cherish your mother." Like, I cannot stand when people just make blanket. Why can't I say that? When people just make blanket statements to random strangers. It irks my soul because you have no idea what you're even talking about. So Amanda family is all about being married. Everybody married. Nobody get divorced. So no, she didn't say he was abusive, but anytime she would even bring up divorce, it's like, nope, the D word ain't said, and we get the divorce, get out of it. Like, whatever the situation, stop telling people to work through it. Get out of people, get out. Like, it just, that stuff really irks me. And I feel like I just wish people would stop just doing stuff like that. Oh yeah, but that's the only family you got, and that, stop saying this stuff to people. But he was pretty much just emotionally abusive, controlling, but never physically abusive. But things started to escalate. After, I think, 6 years of marriage, she wanted to separate. If I remember correctly, they couldn't afford to physically separate, so she was like staying in a separate bedroom. And one night while she was asleep, he came into the room, wanted to see her phone, and it's something else I'll be talking about. He had this thing about, don't talk to your friends about our business. When people say stuff like that and what happens in your house stays in your house, I can't stand that secrecy stuff. I can't stand that secrecy stuff. It's just a breeding ground. Like people be wanting to be secret for a reason. Like they be want, like, even in something that people try to make small, like, oh, well, I don't want to post my relationship on social media. Do you have to blast your business to the world? Obviously not. But it's a difference between being secret and being private. And I hate the whole, like, things being stroked in secrecy. It's just a breeding ground for abuse. It is the cattle. It just really is. But I just found that interesting that he was very much about, keep our business and don't be telling people to be like. And I was raised like that. I feel like most black people I know were raised, what happens in your house stays in your house. Like, don't go out and tell the world your business. Like, I hate that whole mind. And I'm a very private person, but I'm also a very open book, like, simultaneously, because secret and private are different. Like, if I was in a relationship, would I put all my business out? No, but you're going to see my significant other popped up somewhere on my social media. Like, you're going to know I'm in a relationship with this person. Are you going to know the intricate details of our business? No. He tries to get into her phone. She won't unlock it. And they say he was a trained boxer. And this is when he assaults her. He punches her in the face. And when I tell you, she didn't have a normal little black eye. You know how you see something, somebody have a black eye and it's like a little bruise? Her eye was effed up. He tore her up. And again, this was the first time, though, that he put his hands on her. And she went to the hospital, but she did not report it or press charges, which she better not get no flack from nobody watching this for that. Because we done seen what happened in the previous situations when they immediately reported the very first time the man put their hands on them to the police. Like, we better not get this related no crap. But her whole thing was, and this is what I thought was really interesting. The reason she did not report it or press charges was because she was worried about what her kids would think if they grew up and later found out about this. They were 2, 4, and 5 at the time. And by the end of the story, they gonna have to grow up to find out that their father not only physically abused their mother, but took out their aunt with a murder plot to take out their mother. I am very much, look, I don't have no kids. I don't want no kids. But I was a kid to a parent. And I very much do not agree with hiding stuff from your kids. Of course, certain things are age appropriate. You don't just say certain stuff to kids. But I do not like the whole trying to hide stuff from the kids. And we don't want, stop trying to hide the truth from kids. Like, period. It literally always leads to being way more detrimental than if you would have just told the truth. Like, literally, every time. Tell the kids the truth. Whether it's about their parent, whether it's about whatever. And again, obviously, certain things are age appropriate. Her kids were 2, 4, and 5. You don't tell a 2, 4, and 5-year-old, yeah, your daddy would beat me up. But you don't, and I don't want to say you don't, because the whole message that I want to portray with this documentary is to stop telling people how to be a victim. But just friendly advice. As someone who was a child, to a parent, and as someone who father is physically abusive to women, stop trying to hide stuff from your kids. My mother always told me the truth, and it was way more beneficial than harmful. Period. No matter how hard the truth, tell the truth. Period. Again, yes, age appropriately tell the truth. But I do not believe in hiding the truth from your kids. One way or another, they're going to find out the truth. Better it be from you. Better it be from you. Anyway, he was pretty much stalking her. She would have 40 missed calls. He would teeter between come home, let's work it out, to like, well, F you then. And he pretty much tells her, well, I'm going to file for child support, alimony, for custody. If I don't get it, I'm going to take you out. And she was like, I didn't think the death threats were serious. And I just about fell out. I don't know if it's because I have a cousin who boyfriend took her out when I was a kid. I don't play about stuff like that. I don't. I remember a homegirl was trying to break up with this guy, and he was threatening to take himself out. And she was just like, I don't play. I don't play. I'm going to take what you say literally and seriously. I do not play when people start talking about unaliving people. No. So one day she comes home. By this point, they are living separate. She comes home. It's late at night. Someone pops out of the bushes before she like opens her door, can barely get a foot out. She gets brutally attacked. Ends up in the hospital, broken teeth, couldn't move her arm, just effed up. But it was like a blitz attack. She had blood in her eyes. She really couldn't see to identify the person. So the cops was like, oh, well, you ain't see, we can't do shit. But it's like, is any actual detective work, police work ever done? Like, don't, when stuff happen to people, we look at motive. Were they robbed? Was it personal? Like, this woman is going through a divorce from a man that is abusive. Who else would be hiding in the weeds, hiding in the bushes to blitz attack her? It just irks me. It irks me. And I feel like I was watching Forensic Files, and this woman got attacked, and this guy had like a sore on his hand from punching her in the teeth. Like the teeth cut him. And they able to do all this stuff. He knocked her teeth out. Y'all couldn't go swab his hand or swab her mouth for his skin cells. Like, I don't know. I just feel like, why aren't... Okay. Let me calm down. I did well trying not to like really be angry in this video, but Jesus, this was pissing me off. So she ends up filing for a protective order now at this point. And due to the nature of the assault, the kids were automatically included in the order of protection. And I think she also filed the case with both assaults that happened to her against him. She ends up getting granted full custody. He was denied everything he asked for. And I'm like, the thing that would have popped up immediately in my head is he specifically said, babe, I'm going to take you at your word. He specifically said, if I get denied XYZ, I'm going to take you out. She's a single mother. She's trying to take care of 3 kids. So she had her sister Punky mixed with a nanny that would take care of the kids. And she just so happened to need to be out of town in New York for a work conference. And this is when we hear from the nanny. And honestly, I big ups to the nanny. Because I don't know if I could keep a job watching the kids of a man that is abusive. I don't know if this man gonna pop the hell up trying to take these kids and do something to me. And that is exactly what kind of happened. So we get the 911 call. We hear from the nanny. She wakes up in the middle of the night because she heard gunshots. And she better than me. Because I'm not leaving my room and opening the door and going towards the gunshots. But she goes and she sees the sister Punky lying face down in her own blood. And she was able to shield the 2 daughters, but the son was sitting on the sofa and It's not clear exactly what he saw, but he was visibly traumatized. So we don't know if he just saw the aunt lying there dead or if he actually saw her murdered. It is also, oh Lord, I'm finna cry. Woo, this be hard. Like, these are real people. Like, this happened to real people. Oh, it hurts my soul. The poor kids, Jesus. But it was also said that the Aunt Punky pretty much used her last moments trying to protect her nieces and nephews. But it's like somebody showed up, and we know the man abusive. Like, I'm pretty sure something was in her head that no one is randomly knocking on the door with the gun. Like, she was trying to protect her nieces and nephews. She had a lifelong friend / new husband who was devastated. The sister Punky. Of course, the family is devastated. Of course, Amanda is devastated. Of course, she feels guilt because obviously I'm the one that he wanted to take out, not my sister. I just so happen to be out of town. My sister, like, it's like she's gone because of me. Now, it's not until after this murder, which they don't even tie to the ex-husband Kevin, but it's not until after the murder that they finally move forward with the assault charges, which I don't know why they were moving so slow, moving at a snail's pace, not really moving forward with it, but they finally moved forward. And Amanda talks about how she was frustrated because if they would have moved forward with the case in the first place, he would have been locked up and unable to, take her sister's life. And he's charged, he's sentenced to 3 years. Now, time is going by. Her sister's murder isn't solved. She was in a shelter with her kids until she could find secure housing. And at first, my knee-jerk thought was, you come from a big family. You have your parents. You have siblings. Why are y'all in a shelter? But I'm pretty sure baby did not want to put more of her family in danger. Like, I just feel like my sister was at my home and her life got taken. The man who I know is responsible is out running wild, free. I don't want to move into someone else's house and put them in danger. So they were in a shelter for a while because obviously we don't want to go back to the house that all of this happened in. The case for her sister ends up moving forward when they get a tip that a 15-year-old girl at a party, Angelica, was boasting about how her and her boyfriend took somebody out. And she had information about what happened to the sister Punky that was not made public. So they come and they find out that her boyfriend is this guy Jay, who is a cousin of Kevin. And they track all their stuff from social media. They were posting videos of the night that it happened, like on video on the highway, on the way to go do stuff. And flashing the money that they got. And this is what really took me out is the penny ante money that people was doing stuff for. The fake witnesses in the other case was Simona. And then these two. For $2,400, Jay went to go take out his cousin's ex-wife. And the girlfriend, who was 15 years old, got $200. And it's flexing the money in the videos talking about niggas would never guess what I did for this check. And this is when I'm like, okay, so y'all can do actual police work because they're asking the kid, well, how did you get paid? Oh, he paid me the money in an envelope. Was it a bank envelope? Yeah, it said Bank of America. So they took that and was able to track it that Kevin with Bank of America took out the amount of money that they, like, oh, so y'all can connect dots. Okay. But it was like so disgusting. Listening to the kid, Jay, like watching his interrogation tape. Like, oh, he showed us a picture of who he's supposed to take out. But pretty much it didn't matter. Whoever was opening the door was going to get shot. And then what really disgusted me was apparently Angelica asked Kevin, oh, will kids be there? He's like, yeah. And Jay is just like, well, that didn't change nothing. But you're going to send people to take out your kid's mother while they're in the home. Ain't no telling, first of all, ain't no telling what could happen. Something could happen to the kids. But like, you're sick. But they're all sentenced. The girlfriend who gets 15 years. Jay, I think he got like 30 years. I'm guessing maybe because she's a minor, she didn't get as much. But I'm like, she culpable. Like, the whole setup was Obviously, they're not going to open the door for some strange man in the middle of the night. So they send the 15-year-old girl to knock on the door. Like, she's culpable. She was a part of the murder plot. She got paid. I don't know why she got less time than everybody, but Kevin ends up getting life without parole. And it just hurt my heart when Amanda is like, people say it's not my fault. I've heard it 100 times, but I was the link between them. Like, she's always going to have guilt. And I feel like my heart hurts when it's like, I hate when people stuff, like, Punky did not deserve to lose her young life. She was newly married. She was, I think they said she was planning like kids of her own. Like, she had her own full life. And the grandmother in the last story, like, I just cannot stand when people are like collateral damage and stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with them. And then my heart also irks for the family, like the person who feels the guilt. Like Amanda said, like, I'm the link. I brought this person in. Like, that hurts me as well, because that person's actions is that person's actions. But you know that logically, which Amanda says, like, logically, I know he's responsible for his actions, but I still feel guilty. But yeah, that was the worst ex ever. And that is the worst title ever for this debauchery. Like, that title kind of sounds like we're gonna hit some little frills. No, this was dark. This was dark. We'll be back to lighter things in our next videos. But I did skip content just to get this out, because I just randomly saw this and it just infuriated me. And you know, they say misery loves company. I want to spread the anger. So let me know in the comments how you feel. Just, you know, I will see you in the next one, hopefully on a lighter note.
Goodbye. Goodbye.